Utility of directives. So, what is the utility of directives? Despite all criticism, it cannot be said that these principles are absolutely useless. The directive principles are just like a pole star that provides direction. Their basic aim is to persuade the government to provide social and economical justice in all spheres of life, keeping in view its limited material resources at the earliest possible. They have their own utility and significance. Educative value. Sir B.N. Rao, who advised the division of rights into enforceable and non-enforceable rights, stated that directives were intended as moral precepts for the authorities of the state. They have at least an educative value. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar explained it with the objective of directive principle as follows. While we have established political democracy, it is also desired that we should lay down we should lay down as our ideal economic democracy. We do not want merely to lay down a mechanism to enable people to come and capture power. The Constitution also wishes to lay down an ideal before those who would be forming the government. Granville Austin considered these directives to be aimed at furthering the goals of the social revolution or to foster this revolution by establishing the conditions necessary for its achievement. He explained by establishing the positive obligations of the state, the members of the Constituent Assembly made it responsibility for the future Indian governments to find a middle way between individual liberty and the public good, between preserving the property and the privilege of the few and bestowing benefits on the many in order to liberate the powers of all men equally for the contributions to the common good. Sanction of public opinion behind these directives. Even though the directives are non-enforceable and the courts cannot force the government to implement them, the real force behind them is of public opinion seeking for welfare. Democratic form of government is a responsible government. As Dr. B. Ambedkar observed in the Constituent Assembly, if any government ignores them, they will certainly have to answer for them before the electorate at the election time. It would also be a patent weapon at the hands of the opposition to discredit the government on the ground that any of its executive or legislative acts is opposed to the directive principles. Thus, the sanction behind them is in fact political. There is constitutional backing to the principles. Directive principles in fact expand the ideals embodied in the preamble of the Constitution, which cherishes to secure social, economical and political justice as well as equality of status and opportunity. Directive principles have been considered as a part of the whole comprising the preamble, fundamental rights, directive principles and fundamental duties. Even constitutionally speaking, Article 37 lays down as the principles are nevertheless fundamental in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws. On the other hand, Article 355 says, it shall be duty of the Union to ensure that the government of every state is carried on in accordance with the provisions of the constitutions. Thus, there is an effective legal force behind these guidelines. Taken seriously by the courts and the government. The effectiveness of the constitutional documents, however sanctimonious, depends on how seriously the prevailing governments and judiciary take steps. Directive principles, being a collection of long-standing needs of socio-economic reforms, have been amply supported by the judiciary and governments alike, irrespective of the political ideologies. While judiciary has built a doctrine of harmonious construction to reduce the conflict between the directive principles and the fundamental rights, the government have been moving towards providing a range of socio-economic rights based regime as shown by the various constitutional amendments and enactments below. The government efforts to follow their directives. Many directive principles of the state policy have been implemented to lay down the foundations of a secular, socialist, and welfare state. Actually, no government can afford to ignore these instructions as they are the mirror of the public opinion. Implementation of the directive principle enhances the credibility and popularity of any government. Some of the steps taken in this direction are listed below. Land reforms have been introduced and Jamindari and Zagidari system has been abolished. Ceiling has been placed on land and the property to fix the limits of the person's holdings. The privy purses of the ex-princes have been abolished. Life insurance, general insurance companies and the most of the banks have been nationalized. In order to reduce economic disparity, right to property has been deleted from the chapter on the fundamental rights. So it's a constitutional right, no more it's a fundamental right. Untouchability has been abolished. Sincere efforts have been made for the upliftment of the SC, STs and the other backward classes. Panchayati Raj has been given constitutional status by the LM Singhvi committee. Village panchayats have been set up and are functioning at the village level. Small scale and village industries and Khadi Gram Udyog have been encouraged to bring prosperity to the rural areas. Various programs for increasing agriculture production through green revolution and promotion of animal husbandry are given priority. Minimum wages have been fixed in almost all the spheres of employment. Equal wages for equal work for both men and women have been enacted. National Commission for the Welfare of the Women has been established. Many laws and welfare schemes have been passed to protect women and children from exploitation. A number of welfare schemes have been implemented for the weaker section, including the poor and backward classes, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, as well as the women. Seats have been reserved for them in the Parliament and the Vidhan Sabhas. Subsidized public distribution schemes have been launched to help the poor people. Right to food is enacted. Right to work is being provided. 200 days of guaranteed work are through Manrega. Various other programs have been launched to boost self and wage employment, such as the National Rural Livelihood Mission. In a way, right to health is being provided through assured supply of the generic medicines in government hospitals as well as various health insurance schemes. In a significant achievement, the right to education for the children aged 6 to 14 years has been converted from directive guideline to fundamental right as Indian state developed capability of doing so. The 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act added a directive principle which ensures protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forest and wildlife. A number of programs like Save the Tiger, Project Rhino, Project Elephant have been implemented in pursuance of the newly added directive principle. It has also been actively cooperating with the United Nations to promote international peace and security. So the directives has been completed. So thus it is obvious that a lot of work has been done in the direction provided by DPSP, but still the problems of poverty, unemployment and poor health exist. Inequality is on the rising. Major hindrances is the non-implementation of the directive principles because the state does not have that much of resources to implement all the DPSP. Lack of political will on part of the states. Yes, there is lack of political will. There is a crunch of the resources. There is a lack of implementation of the schemes and the cooperation and coordination between the center and the state. There is a lack of awareness and organized action on part of the people and limited material resources. The spirit of directive principle is to improve the quality of the people, to ensure inclusive society and to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. This is a continuous process and the efforts should continue. So now, what is the differences between directive principles and the fundamental rights? First of all, the first major differences is that if your fundamental right is violated by the state, you can approach the Supreme Court and file a writ petition. But this is not possible in case of DPSP because it's just a guidelines given to the government by the Constitution to ensure the implementation of this provision during the time of policy formation. fundamental rights and directive principles have common origin and common objective of establishment of the welfare state. Within this fold, the fundamental rights provide the foundation for political democracy, whereas the TPSP provides for socio-economic democracy. Fundamental rights are in the form of negative obligations of the state, injunctions against the actions of the state. They are in the nature of denial of certain authority to the government. Fundamental rights ensure constitutionalism, limits to the action of the government. The directive principles are, on the contrary, positive obligations of the state towards the citizen. They are like positive directions